Hello there, gamers everywhere. I'm Sweep92, and I'm here with a big breakdown on Nightingale. Now, this is a big game, not in terms of launcher or the developer, but it is a big game gameplay-wise. It's a big project, and oof, there's a lot going on here. There have been so many emotions. I have been awed by the visuals. I have been frustrated by glitches and bugs. I have been annoyed by some of the mechanics. I have been happy for the gameplay, and I have also been severely frightened by how many things there actually are that are annoying me. But I've also been a bit frightened by the damage that the difficulty can actually deal with you. So, yeah, it's a very interesting game, and this game is in early access, and so many of the issues, the bugs and glitches, could possibly be resolved by the full release. As for gameplay and mechanics, we're just gonna have to wait and see for the full release to see what has changed, and I'll definitely do a video of that once that is released. But for now, let's do a breakdown of the early access version of Nightingale. Let's dive right in. So, where to start our journey? Well, when I was doing the manuscript for this, well, there was a lot of pages. There has been a lot of pages written, and yes, I do write with a pen, on physical paper, because I do feel I like that. I like the physical paper and the physical writing more. I do like writing that down on physical paper and then read it as much as I need to. But there has been a lot of pages written here, and I've been trying to get giving this breakdown a good structure. So I'm gonna start off with the genre of the game, and what is Nightingale? The game is advertised as a sort of a survival adventure crafting game with co-op, and that is a key ingredient here, co-op. But we're gonna get into that later. The basic premise of the story is that humans are scattered through realms or dimensions, so you could call it. A way of traveling through these realms were discovered or gifted. I'm not 100% sure there, but they a thing happened, the cataclysm. Now, the main part of the story is that you're trying to get back to the capital city of Nightingale, hence the name. Wow. Anyway, you're not the only one looking for it, of course. There's a lot of NPCs to talk with throughout the game, and one of the main characters, you could call it, is, besides you, also your guide through the game, who is called Puck. He's a Fae, as I understand it, and these realms you're traveling through are called Fae worlds or Fae realms. And yeah, that he's a big character, but he speaks in riddle, and he's kind of very mysterious, and you don't. I'm, I'm kind of I'm intrigued by him because I'm like, what is his intention? Is it for the good of me and mankind, or does he have something? Does he have what's the word? Does he have an agenda with helping me through this world? Now, the way the story is told is through text and conversations with different NPCs or different characters. Some characters are more major than others, of course, and the characters themselves are nice in design and what backstory you get from them. Uh, the little backstory you get at least, but all this text reading and all that, they can have a lot to talk about sometimes, and it gets one-sided and somewhat boring. I do like the world they have built here and the characters they have built, but reading all that text, it gets boring. And there's not much in terms of voice acting except for the character of Puck. I believe he's the only one that is actually voice acted in any meaningful way. Most are not voice acted at all. Now, questioning in this game is pretty simple. You walk up to an NPC who happens to have a, symbol above their head. The one I can't remember what the name of it is. But you walk up to them, you talk to them, and you get a quest. Now, there are other NPCs out there that you can talk to who can give you things like there are challenges around the world where, for example, you talk to an NPC and they tell you that they need help building something, and then you help them build a house or crafting stations or what have you. There are also other challenges that don't involve NPCs, but there are also challenges where you have to defend a thing with a couple of NPCs against enemy waves. It's pretty simple, but that's a side quest of things. But there's also the main quest, which spans pretty much the entire game and lets you basically do everything that you need to do to get a good grip on what the game is and what you might do in the future while in the end game or after the story that it's available for this early access. But it's very simple. You walk up to an NPC, get a quest, you can look in your journal, what am I supposed to do, and they'll go do it. Now, to complete some of the quests, you might need to look, actually see what the NPC is saying, at least, or go into the quest journal and actually look at other quests that are related to that main quest or the first step of the quest, so that you know what you're supposed to do. But the characters and the story is enjoyable enough to me, and they work well for the game and its structure. So I'm not sad about the story. I'm not unhappy about the story. It's a good story and it's a good character evolvement or character story, character arc is what I'm trying to hear. Moving on to the physical and visual style of things in the game, uh, we're gonna start with something truly beautiful. I have no idea what it really is, but it is really nice. Ser ut som ett öga nästan.
Elementesk
Det är
koll.
ju som vi är inuti någon typ av dome eller någonting. Vad häftigt. And with that beautiful picture out of the way, let's take a look at something on the other side of the spectrum. The character creator. Jesus! Holy Mother of God! Now, the character creator tool is very good. It has a lot of good, nice details to work with, and the most impressive part of the tool is the ancestor mechanic. You can choose your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents. And with those additions to your character's makeup, you can actually use the ancestor tool to change your facial features depending on your ancestors. This is a really nice thing. You can create some horrible creatures, but it is a really nice idea and I like it. As for the rest of the game's visuals, they are really nice. The animations for the different spells are really fluid. They all look really colorful. They are really smooth when you're taking the spells out of the tools. They look really nice. And it's also different depending on what tool the spell is applied to, except for the pickaxe and the axe. Those are the same, but I believe that's because later on in the game you can actually create a axe pick tool, which is a combination of both tools. So I'm guessing that's why those two tools have the same animation. But they are really nice anyway. Honestly, can't get over how smooth the animations look, but yeah, they have done an impressive animation work overall in the whole game. That's also one of the things that have bugged or glitched the least for me. I've seen very little of that. Same goes for the portal animations. You're opening a portal and the depth, the sense of depth, and and just the visual style of it is really nice. I That was one of the things I was really awed by. It looks really nice, and they have really succeeded in creating a sense of a portal. It looks like that's gonna take me somewhere, and I have no idea where it's gonna take me because each world is, yes, procedurally generated. Much of the design of the game, as you can see by the gameplay, has a sort of a 19th century look to them. A lot of them, at least. A lot of the human stuff is there. It's a very industrial revolution type of aesthetic, mixed with some steampunk. It's hard to describe actually, but you see from the gameplay maybe what I mean. But I like the overall design of the game, things in the game. From enemies, which can be really unique and nice looking, and environments are really nice. The colors, the grass, and all of that looks really good. Some of it is basic, but it fits very well and it looks good. Tools, buildings, all of that looks really nice. Especially the higher tier tools later on are very elegant, you could say. They're very elegant. I'm looking very much forward to seeing future environments, to what new they can make with this, because there are so many more things they can do. Oof, I'm looking forward to that. Ooh. Moving on to the exploration, and that ties somewhat both into the story and visuals. Because a key feature and mechanic in the game, as you've seen from the trailers, if you have seen those, is the ability to open portals, as I mentioned earlier, and these go into the Feywilds. And calls the game has this kind of card mechanic for this. Uh, you use realm cards to open portals, and there are 3 different cards for biome so far: a desert, forest, and swamp. These are very different from one another, both in terms of what kind of creatures, materials, and also hazards you can meet or get exposed to. The forest doesn't have any kind of environmental factors in it, but swamp, in swamp you might get poisoned from some parts of the water, and in the desert you will get hot. And if you get too hot, you will get reduced stamina. So yeah, it it has some basic environmental things there, but each environment really is very unique, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing more biomes added to them, because I'm sure mountain is something they are working on, like uh, winter mountains, like in Valheim. And the enemies and creatures in these different biomes are also very different. It's not like they remind you of each other. They're very different. Uh, Desert is the only one so far with robots in it as well, but I like it. These robots are basically endless machines, I'm guessing, which were programmed to mine materials, and that's what they go around doing, actually. And the hot debuff in the desert, I might as well mention this because it is a funny detail. Only in the sun you get hot. So if you use your umbrella, you won't get hot. I like that. I like that little detail. Now, your home realm it also has a specific. At the start, will get to choose your home realm, because first you go through the tutorial. You get to visit one of each of the biomes, and then you get to choose which biome do you want as a home. You choose that, and you get an abeyance card, I want to say it is. This one has minimalistic danger. Now, choosing, of course, desert or swamp will make your home realm a little bit more difficult, I would say. The forest is the easiest one, as that it doesn't have any environmental factors in it. But it doesn't really matter which one you go for. I mean, they're gonna be. Oh, well, it's gonna be much harder to, of course, build a house in desert because there's a lot less trees. Except if the abeyance card actually does something to the desert biome that makes it grow more trees. That could be a thing. Either way, the abeyance card is a secondary realm card, which will be applied to a portal when you open it. So you apply a biome card and then you apply a secondary card which will determine the difficulty of the realm. These will determine what kind of NPCs you meet as well and other things. So there's a lot here. Now, unfortunately, there aren't that many of those secondary cards. Now, there's only 3 biome cards, but the secondary cards may be around 10 or so, I think. Maybe. But I think it could be less than 10, but they can be combined with each of the different biomes, of course. There's no restrictions in that. There's also minor cards that can give boosts to the realm. You go up. If you're entering a realm, a portal, you will have marked on your map a Fey Tower. You will go to the Fey Tower, go into that, fight some enemies, go to the top, and at the top there's a minor realm card kind of machine that will be able to apply the boost to the whole realm. Now that will be applied to the whole realm, but not any other realm that you're in. Now these minor cards can give you boosts, but also some restrictions. Maybe you can carry more, but your stamina is maybe you have less stamina and things like that. Oh, and I might as well also mention that you can easily fast travel to your home realm by using bringing up the map and then pressing return to respite, because respite is your home cairn where you place your home cairn, which is basically this is where I want to live. Yeah. Ah. Now, the exploration of these realms are pretty basic. As I mentioned, you have a map, so bring that up and you will have a few icons there. If you go into the Fey Tower, you will basically get all of the icons for all the important places. Now, all the important places are basically the places where you can get essence, and essence is the currency. It's used for purchasing things from certain essence traders, and it's also used, the first grade of essence at least, is used for repairing. Now, this repairing thing, I'm gonna get into that later because that one is a little bit unbalanced. Uh, but I might as well mention it now when I'm on the topic. There is a bug, I believe, with this because it says to repair all, it's gonna cost me 1,000, but I press that and I don't lose 1,000 essence. But this could also be intentional because there might be there's something that developers are working on to refine and rework a little bit because you can get essence from anything. The basic essence, the first tier of essence you can get from extracting any material you have in your inventory. Just right click, select extract, and you will get, if you have 100 wood, you will get 100 essence. But if I were to, if I would have, if I, to repair the tools I have now costs like almost 3,000 essence, depending on how damaged everything is. To get 3,000 essence, so I would have to cut down every grass, every tree, mine every stone that I find in a realm to be able to repair it, and that's just not plausible. So no, yeah, I think they might be working on this repairing system for now. So yeah, that's a good thing. Keep working on that. Keep working. But as you progress through the story and all these realms, other essences will be available. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 3 is the last one, and it's also used in some crafting. All of the essences are used in some way in crafting, mostly for magical items and for upgrading tools and equipment. The tier 3 essence will be a bit grindy. I will say that. You will have to grind a lot because the tools and
Det
other
låter väldigt effektivt
schematics you
utan
can
att man
buy
spelar på.
in late game with tier 3 essence
Ja, det är gött.
costs a lot.
Etched ingot.
It's
Nice.
really expensive.
Jaha,
Jeez.
time to
Uh.
start slashing and stabbing.
And the grind for materials can feel
Ska vi snart
really
försöka
high because
sluta? Behöver inte göra det något mer.
it's you need a lot of material to craft
Nu har
one
jag så
thing because
jävla
first
mycket
maybe you need
både
to craft
hides och
that
bones
thing and then you
och
need to
skit som inte
convert
ens
that thing to
använder
that
alltså.
thing and that thing to that thing and that thing to that thing. It's it gets really complicated at times.
Det är
The
occupied.
crafting gets really effing complicated.
One-shotar du nyss honom?
But I do recommend exploring the whole realm, especially if you are there for a unique material, because they can be anywhere.
What the fuck? Okej.
But
Ja, då får
early
jag
on in the
skit.
game, you get to recruit a follower,
Oh, nice.
and these followers, well, they're mostly there for pack
Jag tar fan
mules.
soaring här alltså.
You can
Jag ska fan
not
flyga.
throw all of your items into them. They have a limited amount of space in them, but they can carry unlimited. So unless they have a full inventory, you can pack them with things until you're done with the realm, basically. They're also decent in a fight, as long as you equip them with, as long as they have a weapon equipped. Be sure to upgrade their weapons and armor and such so that they are better. But other than that, I like the followers, except for a few things that we'll get into later. And of course, while exploring, you will most likely get into some combat, either with the unique creatures of the biome or the recurring enemy that I can't remember the name of, but reminds me of the Falmer enemies in Elder Scrolls Skyrim. The combat in the game is very basic. Some people say that it's boring, but at the core it is basic, but it has a depth to it. Not a deep sea depth. It's not the Mariana Trench deep, but it's more of a shallow lake depth. But I find it good. I find the combat good because they have done it a little bit different here. Your tools are your weapons basically, except for the ranged weapon like pistols. Sorry, you can't use the pistol as a hammer, but that's a key feature. Your tools are your weapons and your tools. With the pickaxe, you mine rock and you bash some skulls in. Now, different tools are good for different encounters. Some enemies take more damage from an axe, and others from a pickaxe, and others from guns. But the pickaxe deals much more damage to the axe, but the axe has a different swinging animations. Aim for the head, always. It will deal critical damage every time and do much more damage per swing. This includes both for pistol and or ranged weapons in general and melee weapons. Hitting the head is not always easy, but it is very satisfying. It's very satisfying when you hear the sound of that cling when you hit the head. Gunplay is really solid in the game. I've been trying out a pistol and a rifle, and it's really nice. I like the gunplay. It's not anything new to them, but it's really nice. What's new though is that you can deal heart shots on some enemies, mainly creatures, creatures like animals, and hitting the heart will deal like triple or 5 times the damage to a normal attack. So yeah, heart shots are really devastating. And they're not easy to land, especially if you don't know where the heart is. So you need to locate that. Not easy, but manageable. There's also one somewhat unique tool that I really like to this game that they have added. Climbing picks. Used for climbing. Go figure. Duh. Takes a little while to get used to them, but they work very well. They drain a lot of stamina and very quickly, but they work very well. Oh, and even just hanging on the walls drain the stamina, so be aware of that. But I like them. They're not very useful in combat, because you swing with them, but as they are very small, they don't have a lot of hitbox area, and after the last swing, you kind of do a spin with them, and then you just stand there while you're spinning them. So that leaves you open for attack very quickly. But I like them. As they are not useful, but you can put spells on them. So well, if you have them in a quick war, you can quickly go to them, cast a spell that you want with them, and go back to your main weapon. So that works. It's a nice addition to the game, I think. Another part of combat is, of course, the armor that you have, which will give you higher health, more stamina, the stamina regen, mana regen. Well, not mana regen, sorry, stamina regen, health regen. There's no mana in this game. Your spells are actually powered by your stamina, so the more stamina you have, the more uh, spells you can cast, or, well, easier there is to cast a spell. But there also, with backpacks, you increase your carrying weight, and there are many stats in this game. There's also resistance to different elements. There's a lot. The armor is in design, they're very good, but I mean, it's basic armor, so there isn't really much to talk about here. So let's go over to the big part of combat, or another big part of combat. Spells. The magic. The magic comes in three forms: charms, enchantments, and infusions. Charms are the ones with the feather symbol. They are passives with effects, you could say. It's like when X happens, Y happens. Example is gaining health and scaring enemies when landing hits on weak points. So each time X happens, hitting enemies on the weak point, Y happens. You gain health and scare enemies. There's a lot of these that you can use. These can be applied to weapons, and I believe armor as well. Now there's also infusions. They come in different rarities and gives a passive bonus to whichever equipment you apply it to, and this bonus is depending on the rarity. The higher the rarity, the better the bonus. These bonuses are stamina, health regen, uh, specific resistance, strength, etc. There's a lot of different stats here, but yeah, these bonuses give passive bonus that are always active. Now, enchantments, those are the active spells that you cast at enemies or on yourself. They are more active and are applied to your tools, and the higher your grade of tools, like for if they're green, you can apply one spell. At blue and purple, you can apply 2 and 3 spells, respectively. So these are really... that's a really nice way of doing it. I wish the while changing spells were a bit more fluid, or if you could assign them to different buttons than having them that you have just one spell for one button for spells. So you need to hold down R and then switch spells, and then press R again to use the spell. Why not have it on different buttons? I don't know. But anyway, these kind of spells can be a bit different. Some needs to be charged to be used, or some can be charged to become more powerful, like the healing spell or certain weapon spells that apply like fire damage to your weapons. If you longer you charge them, the more hits they are active. And for healing, it heals faster if you charge it, and it becomes stronger. Now, there's also temporary buffs you can apply to yourself, and offensive spells that will, for example, create a spikes under the ground that damage enemies. I use that one. I really like that one. But in combat, while switching between spells, it can be a bit jarring. So having different weapons with different spells can be very good. For example, I have a defensive buff on my climbing picks, but I also applied stamina efficiency, so they don't drain as much stamina when climbing. So that's kind of how you can use these magical properties, magical tools to actually enhance yourself and become so much stronger. I really like the magic and these three forms of magical items you can apply. So to me the combat is very basic, but it works well, especially later on when firearms and spells are available. Now, I haven't been able to apply any spells to my firearms, which is a downside. I would have liked to have something on there. But firearms can have multiple types of bullets. For example, lightning bullet, poison bullets, ice bullet, firearm, fire bullets. Can't remember if there's anything else, but there's also normal bullets. And these different bullets apply, of course, different status effects. Now, it does take a few hours before your first spell and then your first firearm, but I would say it's worth it. Yep. Of course, before heading out, you might want to craft. Before heading out to explore and fighting enemies, you will need to craft the gear you'll be using and food to increase your health and stamina. So let's get into the crafting of the game. The crafting is simple. There's a workbench, there's a list of things you can make, and here's the things you need. But there are a lot of crafting tables in this game, and that's a very quite a frustrating thing because there's a lot to keep track of. Each time you get to the next rank of crafting tables, they also need components that are only available at the new tables. So you can craft, the only way to craft the new tables is to use items or objects, materials that can only be crafted with a new table. So how do you get those new crafting things, you might wonder? Well, you have to buy them. The only way to get the parts is to buy them from a relevant essence trader. Normally you can find these in the same realm. For example, a tier 1 trader will most likely sell the things you need for the next upgrade. Maybe. I honestly can't remember exactly when and where, but check with essence traders. They should have the necessary components for the next upgrade. For example, I found the when I found the upgrades I had at one essence trader, the same person I bought the necessary components to craft a pistol and also much of the crafting stations. So when I got back to my home realm, I could craft the different tables and I was done. It took a lot of running back and forth and a lot of running and just being confused. So not a good experience, but I managed to get into it and around it. There is one thing they have done well, though, with the crafting, I think is a very important note, and that is that all the materials you can find can be useful, even in late game. For example, you take meat from any animal, well, use it as food. That's just basic. But using it to get oil, that was not something I expected. But having a lot of food on you or raw meat in a chest, and then when you get to late game and you need oil for different components in different other meat or other cooking or maybe something else, well, there you have the meat, make it into oil. Well, use the low tier meat to make the oil and then use that oil with the high tier meat to get the best food. There we go. And a lot of things also have a lot multiple uses, and I like that. But it can be really confusing as the description word for what you need when crafting can be very vague, as it implies there can be multiple things that can be used. It's like a collection word of the different things that can be used, and it can be really annoying to figure out what it is that you need. It can be really confusing as to what you might need at times. Now, as I said, there are a lot of crafting tables, and this adds to the overall confusion of this. And when looking in the crafting menu that shows you all the things you can craft, you can see which crafting table is needed, but also what augmentation might be needed. And what's an augmentation, you might ask? Well, the word clutter comes to mind. Now, let's say you crafted all the crafting tables and one of each augmentation that you have unlocked. Once you have unlocked most of them, whenever that is, I keep finding new ones myself, and then you place those out, all the crafting tables and all the augmentations in the same room. You would be called a hoarder and your friends would stage an intervention. I'm not kidding. Seriously, I believe I have 30 augmentations, and a lot of these augmentations add recipes, the same recipes. Now, that's what augmentations do. They add recipes to your crafting tables, and each augmentation adds specific recipes to one or more crafting tables. That's a key thing as well. Now, multiple augmentations, as I said, can add the same recipes, and I find it easier to add the augmentations when I see that I need them. So if I look into my crafting menu, I see, okay, I need to make that thing. Okay, I need that workbench. Perfect, I have that one. I need that augmentation or one of these following augmentations. And I look and I like see that, okay, I have that augmentation. I make that augmentation close to that crafting station. Done. And I don't make any more augmentations. I might even remove some augmentations if I feel like I need the space. So, all in all, they went a little bit overboard with augmentations, and they aren't really necessary, in my opinion. Valheim have the same kind of mechanic, but a much smaller number on both augmentations and crafting tables. And that makes it work so much better. Plus the fact that the augmentations in Valheim works through the floor. I tried it in this, but I couldn't get it. It didn't seem to work, so yeah, there we are. Now, running between crafting benches isn't exactly fun when crafting new items, but it also adds to the experience in a weird way, actually. But if that's for you or not, well, that's not for me to say, but it does add to the overall experience of having to craft different things, because crafting in real life, you would need different tools for different things. Now, another crafting station is, of course, the cooking stations, and that one is pretty standard. There's a few different things you can craft through a good amount, I would say, of different foods you can craft, especially later on in the game. Now, there are problems with the planting and growing of things in the game, so that's a big issue. Because finding tomatoes, potatoes, and onions, those seems to be quite rare. I'm not sure, but anyway, food works here a lot like it does in Valheim and Enshrouded, except for the fact this is a more of a survival game. You will need to rest and eat to survive. If you don't, you will die. So yeah, that's a that's a that's a big point that I should have mentioned earlier. My bad. Anyway, you will need to eat in the game or you will die, and the eating also gives you max health, stamina regen, health regen, and other benefits. So yeah. Now, getting ingredients can feel a bit limited because berries, meat, and salt is easy enough, but thanks to the can't grow a farm, there are things you can't cook because of it. Me and my friend have a very hard time actually finding flour so that we can, well, finding wheat so that we can make flour, so that we can make bread and whatever else that wheat is required for, or flour. So yeah, I don't like that. Now, another one of my biggest issues, or I think it's my major issue with crafting, is that there are so many types of the same material. With every new tier of essence, there's also a new tier of enemies, creatures, and materials. And each new tier is another space taken up in your inventory. For example, you have the crude version of wood, you have a tier 1 wood, tier 3, tier 2, tier 4. Now, finding all of these different tiers is not exactly common, but there's also different kinds of wood. So there's hardwood, softwood, ordinary wood, eoten wood, might be something else too, but I don't know. There's so many, and each of them take up their own separate space in your inventory and then later on in your chests. Now, all items have a max amount in each stack, and it seems to be 100 for everything, but if you have meat from tier 1 and tier 2 predators, that's 2 squares of space used. And yes, I do specify predators here because that's how the game works. The other category is prey. So there's predator and prey meat, and on top of that, creating food from different meats creates different types of food result. So creating meat from prey is not the same as creating meat from predator. This goes for pretty much everything else as well. Animal fiber from different meat, oil, thread, pigments, and so on. So yeah, if you make fiber from animal fiber, or if you make thread from animal fiber, it's gonna be different if you make it from ordinary fiber. Ugh. Now, the reason why it is like this, at least from what I can figure out, is because different materials give different bonuses to the crafted recipe. For example, higher tier predator meat gives more health, and prey meat gives more stamina, as far as I remember. And for example, you can make a tool more durable and deal more flat damage, crit damage, more magic power, range damage, or whatever else you want to have on it. Now, of course, focusing on one is preferable because focusing on two and you might get a mid-tier weapon might be enough, but I don't know. My friend, for example, he's created gear for him, and well, his armor and his weapon is focusing on ranged damage. Well, his ranged weapon is ranged damage. His pickaxe is more, well, constructed around melee damage. But much of the late game tools and weapons and armor seems to have a focus on different stats as well, because the Dauntless toolset that my friend got has a focus on raw melee damage, while the Mystic set has a focus on magic power. I created a Mystic axe pick. As I mentioned earlier, it's an axe and pickaxe in one, and it's useful because it only takes up one inventory space, but it also limits the amount of total spells I can have, because with 2 tools I can have 6 spells, with 1 tool I can have 3. But it's not too bad. But with this axe picks I went out of my way, really, to use only materials that increased magic power. Now, compared to the Dauntless pickaxe I had used, the Mystic pickaxe had half the flat damage and slightly less crit damage, actually a bit like 1.2 less crit damage, so significant, but it wasn't too bad, but significant. Less crit damage, but almost quadruple the magic power. And that meant that my spells dealt more damage, healed more and possibly faster, and some of my buffs durations lasted much longer than they had before. So that is an important way of thinking when doing this. Now, could melee damage be the overall game killer? Possibly. Just some enemies, some bosses in this game you don't want to get close to. Yeah. Run. So, because when I say bosses here, because the realms have monsters in them, and some realm combination cards can actually create roaming monsters. So be aware of that. But I do appreciate this kind of customizations, at least in that way, but the mechanic brings a lot of customization, but just like with augmentations, developers went a little overboard. Having prey and predator type of meat, hides and bones, because the hides and bones is also predator and prey, is a bit much, as the differences in the resulted recipe doesn't seem to be that big, at least not in my opinion. I would have preferred to, if all the meat was just meat and all the hide were just hide and bones, singular. But the only thing separating them would be the tier tier 1 meat, tier 2 meat, tier 3 meat, and for the other things. There are more items needing this kind of treatment, but I don't want to get into all of them because that would take too long. So let's move on. Oh, building. Except for some detail pieces missing, the building in the game is really solid. I love the blueprint mechanic. I've heard that other games have this blueprint mechanic, but I haven't played any else. But I have played Sengoku Dynasty. That one has this kind of blueprint mechanic, but I feel like this game is taking it to a kind of a different level here. Um, it, it is easy to build. Choose what you want to build, like including crafting stations and augmentations. Place it down where you want it, and then bring the necessary material for the build to it. All players can help with this, and even the followers can help you with building. But take care when using followers to help people, because followers will use any material they can get their hands on to build, which means you can lose valuable ingots to a simple build. Now, using different ingots for different builds or different projects, if you're building a portal, for example, a portal at your home, using different ingots doesn't do anything. It might give it more health, but you don't need that, so using the ingots that you have the most of, which is hopefully some crappy ingots that you don't need for anything else, basically, use those. But your follower, if your follower has any ingots on them, they will deliver it to the portal and use them. Doesn't matter what kind of rarity they are. If they can be used, they will use them. And if you notice them doing this, deconstruct the thing immediately before it's completed. You'll regain all the materials used to it if you deconstruct it before it's completed, but if you destroy it after it's completed, you only gain 50% of the materials used. At least as far as I can tell, you get 50% of it. Now, if you're building a house, each attached house piece, foundation, pillars, roof, etc., will have their costs added together, so there will be one complete thing. And you just need to deliver the materials to one part of the house. Like go to the nearest corner, press E, and you will have added the necessary components that you have in your inventory to complete the full house. On the other side of the house, like if there's only the roof remaining, go to the foundation, click on the foundation. Oh, look, the roof is done. Now, I really like this. There's no need to deliver material into the section that isn't finished, so you don't need to climb to the roof and do that. It's really nice. And it doesn't work with crafting stations, but or furniture, that is. Each one needs to be done separately, and you can't do the blueprint thing for the house foundation and then place the blueprints for the crafting stations on top of those blueprints. Not at least from what I can remember, at least not when I tried it at the start. You need to complete the house foundation first, and then you can add the crafting stations on top of that, and then build those. And I do like the building and designs of the game. There's a lot you can build with, but I do miss a few items, like 45-degree beams, and I haven't seen much in terms of furniture, at least not that I can remember. I've seen some chairs and tables, but not much else. A lot of the augmentations can make for really good props and decorations, but yeah, that's there's this. I want to see more decorations and furniture. Yeah. Whew. End game. The end game.
Men
There
du,
isn't really much here.
man får ju få
No.
tier 3 också för det här också.
There's a big
Såklart.
grind for
Ja,
essence,
nice.
for tier 3
Ja, det här var
essence,
för
but
synt.
not much else. It's gonna keep you busy. the grinding for tier 3 essence, because as I mentioned earlier, they're tier 3, they're the higher tier of tools and such is really expensive. So it's gonna take you a while to grind for all of those essence that you will need for. Of course, you don't need to buy all of the things in the end game because a lot of them are more preferences than anything else. Like, do you prefer melee damage, magic damage, or range damage? Do you want this kind of rifle or do you want that kind of rifle? But at the same time, it's like, I want to try that one, I want to try that one, I want to try that one. You want to try different things, but if one set of tools cost 1300, hey, it's gonna set you back a lot because you gain about 50 essence at most from one essence bundle that you can find in some dungeons. Now, speaking of dungeons, let's go into the end game vaults that they do mention in a trailer, which are raids, quote unquote, I think they call them. But anyway, these vaults are basically multiplayer raids or dungeons. At the end of the story that's available, you get to the watch, it's called. It's basically a big tower where a bunch of human NPCs and humans live, and here you can find the vaults. Vaults. These are portals to small dungeons that you complete with other players, and you do puzzles or kill enemies or both in a room. You move to the other room, do the not the same amount, not the same exactly the same thing, but similar things in each room, and then at the end you get to a boss, you kill the boss, and then you move to the last room where you can pick up the essence. Now these vaults are the best way of gaining essence in a way, but they can be a bit boring after a while. Me and a friend have tried all the 3 different portals because there are 3 different vaults, one for each biome. And each biome boss is a little bit different and gives a little bit of a different reward at the end. So that's something you need to look at if you're looking for something specific. But these vaults, they're not really special. And if you don't want to play with random people, you can buy a vault card, which will allow you to combine a biome card with a vault card, which will open a private portal for you. So you go back to your home realm, you put the vault card and a biome card in a portal, and then you can go in solo or with just your friends and complete the vault. This will not impact the reward gains. It will give the same amount and the same stuff. It will just take longer because you're fewer people. But maybe some puzzles can be done faster because of communication, who knows. But I think the amount of enemies is less, but I would think it's less, but I'm not 100% sure. Game is not very there. There are also other cards that you can use to gain, of course, tier 3 essence. There's not just these vaults. You can easily open up ascended realms, they call it. These are basically the same realms as before. You choose a biome and then you do maybe the astrolabe ascended card, and with this you gain a 100 rating world realm, and in this realm you can complete the same puzzles and combat things and other essence things and gain tier 3 essence. I know this sounds a little bit confusing right now because finding the exact good words to explain this is not easy, honestly. But open a portal, go in, farm the tier 3 essence, and pick up a lot of materials while you're at it, and then go back to your home realm and then basically repeat. It's not the best end game here. There's a big interesting tower. There's a red tower kind of thing there in the watch, but that doesn't seem to be accessible yet. So I'm interested in that one. I'm looking very much forward to see what they will take the end game to next, because right now it's very bare bones. Yeah,
Ja, men vi
very
har typ
bare
2 till.
bones.
Sen har jag...
Oh, let's talk about the issues. Some issues that I have in the game that I think deserve their own section in this little video. In this very long video, actually. But anyway, let's get on to it before it goes too far. One major issue is the way that the followers help you. I hinted at this earlier, and well, they're decent in battle, instant revives you even. They're good pack mules, but these pack mule dishes out their revenge actually by burning all the wood they have in their inventory, if you let them. Now, here's the deal. A smelter and its higher tier counterparts, cooking stations, and a few other stations require heat to work. Heat to smelt ore into ingots. Following so far. This heat comes from fire that comes from burning wood in the crafting station. I'm still following, and guess what the followers do? If you give them nice quality wood that will burn for longer, they will use that before the basic boring wood. Crude wood is the basic wood. This is preferable to be used before anything else. If you have some nice gilded lumber or carved wood that will burn for longer than the crude wood, they're gonna use that. I have lost some nice gilded lumber and carved wood to this. You can even multiply this problem by 10 if you grant the survivor access to your chests. This is located at the bottom of the chest tab. If you click on that, the survivors, your followers, can access the chests and take things out of the chests and help you build. This is great, but they will pillage your chest and take all the wood they need and deliver it to the nearest wood burning grave. Yeah, great. I imagine they will use the highest quality stuff when helping you build too, so there needs to be an option to restrict survivor access to crafting stations. Seriously. I'm just happy they can't take things from the stations and use that for something. However, if you grant them access to a chest, they will deposit all the materials you've given them, except for the wood if any station is hungry for wood. Oh, and the same goes for coal, which is surprisingly rare. And that's another pet peeve of mine. Coal. Why is it so rare? It can be only found in a cave or possibly right outside the cave. And if you're lucky, you'll get away with maybe 25 to 35 pieces of coal per cave. But that's on a good day. And it's not bad, but the number of caves in each portal biome is maybe 2 to 3. Sometimes 1 cave. And all this is if you're lucky. I've had caves with no coal, and it's the best thing for use as burn fuel because it burns the longest, and it's also used in some crafting recipes like steel, which is the easiest form of alloy ingot to make, at least from what I know. And yeah, stop burning my wood. Let's move on. Server issues. I've been disconnected a lot of times during my 70 plus hours in the game. Never had a crash, but plenty of disconnects. Now these have occurred only when traveling through a portal. Now, not sure how the server switching works because it feels like that's what the game does, switch you to another server each time you go through a portal, but it's annoying. The developers are working on a offline mode, but as I've spent most of my time in co-op with a friend, I imagine that mode won't have a sort of host server thing where either me or him can host a server. on our own computer and then just connect to that instead of connecting to their servers and then hopefully they are stable. But with less traffic on the servers when the offline mode comes, maybe we'll have less problems with that. So eh, I'm hopeful. But since launch, they have actually improved the servers and portal loading a lot. Portals and realms load much better than before. Uh, I'm actually surprised at how fast it goes sometimes, but I'm very happy with the load times now. Okay, that's about all I have for the issues of the game, and yeah, if you like this kind of game, eh, go for it, I say. Give it a try. If you're hesitant because of bugs and glitches, wait for the full release. If you're hesitant because of the always online thing, wait for the
Fish.
offline mode
Scarab.
that will hopefully become sooner rather than later. Now I will have to look at my notes here because, yeah,
Fan vad
yep.
många såna här det var.
Well, I can say that I can recommend this game actually because it is a good game. There is a good game here. The problem, it has some great visuals. It has good gameplay, but
Fiskar du
there are
medan jag
many
dödar hela jävla savannen? Fan.
small issues
Japp, ska jag
that
göra.
become
Ja, det verkar ju fan
that
lite
just
bättre
come
alltså.
together to form a whole here. Now,
Jag tänkte fan vad
individually,
vinna dem åt, tänker
these
jag.
issues wouldn't be
Man vet
too
aldrig vad
bad,
fan man behöver.
but coming together like they do sometimes, it just becomes so much worse. So much worse. And the more they come together, the more you start noticing, and the more annoyed you become, and the more you just lose it. Sooner or later, you could lose it, depending on how much you encounter them. Because at times when crafting and I get these issues, and what am I supposed to? What do I need? What is it that I need? It's just but it is a fun game in a way. It has a way of look at it this way.
My lord?
Stormtrooper.
My lord?
Stormtrooper.
My lord?
Stormtrooper.
My lord?
Yep.
My lord?
Uh-huh.
My lord?
Yo.
My lord?
Hmm.
My lord?
Stormtrooper.
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 My lord.
Stormtrooper.
My lord?
Stormtrooper. Stormtrooper. Stormtrooper.
My lord?
Ugh.
My lord?
Yourself.
My lord?
Go yourself.
My lord?
Go yourself.
My lord?
Go yourself.
Aw. What's up?
The game has a way of making the whole thing tolerable and okay. I'm okay with having these little issues that annoy me, but I'm also really annoyed with them because they're there. I notice them, but I can deal with them. It's like family, you know? They're there. Sometimes you have to meet them. Sometimes you even have to talk to them. But you tolerate them. Like you love them. Just like I love the game. I tolerate the game. I can even tolerate the issues. But I'm not less annoyed by the issues when I do really notice them. Okay, we have finally reached the end of this breakdown of Nightingale. I don't know what to say. All I can say is I'm looking very much forward to the future of Nightingale because the game has a lot of potential and I can see where a lot of things are going. I'm intrigued by the story and the characters. I'm looking very much forward to seeing who Puck really is. Is he a conniving devil or is he actually a nice guy who just wants to help? Who knows? We're gonna find out. I hope. I'm Swift92. Have a great life, and I hope to see you in future videos. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.